If you guys know anything about me, it's that Resident Evil has taken up an unhealthy amount of my life. I may be only 23 years old at the time of recording this video, however, I've probably spent about 40 years playing the game. I started with Resident Evil 5, loved the game, loved Chris Redfield, went back to 4. It wasn't as fun as 5, played 5 a couple thousand more times. All the treasures, achievements, even the multiplayer ones, at least on 360, and then 6 and so on. 7 came out. My God, was 7 a horror first-person game. And surprisingly, they pulled it off. But now, with Resident Evil Village, it kind of slaps. Resident Evil Village slaps. So first thing out of the gate is it's not a horror game, though everyone argues that it is. Capcom flat out came out and said Resident Evil 7 was way too scary and not what we wanted. So here's Village. And I mean, Village isn't scary. It has its moments, which we'll talk about in a moment, but it is not a horror game. If you're going into it for a horror experience, you're fundamentally wrong. However, what Resident Evil Village is a lot of fun. It's kind of like, think about back when Resident Evil 2 came out. What was it, 1998? And then Resident Evil 3 came out a year later. It went from like slow, puzzle, atmospheric, close encounter type of thing to a little bit more of the open city exploration and action-oriented. That's not a great comparison because most people hate Resident Evil 3 Nemesis from back in the day, but that's still what I'm choosing to go off of. This one's a lot like it. Resident Evil 7 was straight horror. Like, every single encounter felt like, oh boy, this is about to get wild and crazy. Whereas Resident Evil 8 is more like, I'm going to fire 30 rounds into your head and you're going to slap me in the face twice. And I'm going to wonder if you're invincible or not, which isn't always a great thing. It gets to me sometimes. At least with Village, they were exploring Ethan Winters a lot more. It's the same cast of characters. You've got, Ethan, Mia, Chris Redfield, the real almost Chris Redfield. Not quite Redfield from 7, but not quite Chris from Resident Evil 5. He's got a mismatch in the voice of Carlos from Resident Evil 3 Remake instead of Roger Craig Smith. I was mad about that, but who cares? But they tend to explore Ethan a lot more, and they actually make him... No, I wouldn't say... He's a little bit more badass. Like, he has his moments where you're like, damn, you've really grown up, Mr. Winters. That's crazy. And then we'll talk about it more later, and then it goes, shut up, please. So at the point of me recording this now, the game's been out for 2.5 weeks, give or take. So I'm going to start throwing in some spoilers. If you don't like that, you might need to skip the rest of the video. We'll see. Like, I haven't scripted this out, so I don't know how much will be spoilers versus how much is going to be just me talking about other things. But I figure the easiest way to review this almost 3 weeks out is we just jump in and we talk about everything. So through exploring Ethan Winters, at least now they've actually like given him a proper full character. It's not always the best character, but like his voice acting, pretty great. He's got some emotion in there. Same with Mia. Chris is pretty good. Like, I never thought Carlos was anything more than just flirty macho man, but he does a little bit better in this game. He has a lot more of like an action protagonist-antagonist presence. And thankfully, they didn't assassinate his character. That part I'll leave out. You know that little intro sequence when he shoots his wife? Yeah, it might be hard to come back from. Maybe. We'll see. You'll see. I already know what happens. But they made sure that every character gets to have kind of their moment. Except maybe Mia. Took a little bit of a back seat after that little gunshot wound to the head, It kind of slowed her down a little bit, but she had a character for a bit. With the game completely wrapping around Ethan's life and family, and then it completely slingshots to his daughter, it's kind of weird how he suddenly just stops caring about Mia's death. Suddenly it's, I gotta get my daughter back, but let's ignore the part where your wife was gunned down brutally in front of you by who you thought was your only friend and mentor and now military trainer. You'd think they'd have a little bit more of a manic episode, not just, I gotta get my daughter back, which is what the entire game is, literally committing mass lichen genocide and vampire genocide to get your daughter back. Which, great, like, a father's love knows no bounds, but your wife was just brutally murdered. I thought there'd be a little bit more of emotional impact throughout the game. Meanwhile, the most tragic scene he shares is with this random NPC you knew for 30 seconds No, I've already forgotten her name. You're in Louise's house, but I don't remember the girl that dies. And it's not really a spoiler, because this happens in the demo that I've already put out. But you go to help her, and she falls into the fire that's like 4 feet off the ground and dies instantaneously. And Ethan goes, "Why does everybody keep dying on me? Why does this keep happening?" And he punches the wall, and you're like, okay, is that it? Nice. Like, it was so dramatic that you just kind of go, ha, that's right, I'm playing a Resident Evil game. But wildly enough, something that they did right with Resident Evil Village is that somehow even weird stilted dialogue in a story that just keeps taking twists. Like, I thought I knew where the game was going and how it was going to end. No, sure didn't. That's not how it played out. It took some twists and some turns. You don't see it coming. The story is just wild. Gets a little messy once you get closer to the end. But it doesn't take you out of the experience. Like, the game is fun. It is just flat out fun. I have already, as of recording, completed the game 7 times, maybe 8. I don't remember how many times I beat it on PC, but I think it might be 4 on PC and 4 on my Xbox Series X. So let's say 8 playthroughs at the moment. If not, by the time you see this, I'll likely have beat it once or twice more. But with Resident Evil Village, I haven't had that experience. Resident Evil 6, even though I love like the third person, like even though it was even more action oriented than before, 6 was okay to me. It wasn't great, but I got more of characters I like. And some characters I didn't know I would like. They did a good job with it, with characters, and that's about it. But it's not an experience I've had since I played Resident Evil 5, where I just want to keep playing it, and like try different ways to beat bosses, try different ways to finish encounters, get all the treasures, collectibles. Like in Resident Evil 5, I have it on both Xbox, Xbox One, PlayStation 3, PC. Like, I've bought it for every platform I can, and every single game I have all the collectibles, all of the bonus things unlocked, all the treasures, like in my inventory, one of everything. And that's kind of where I'm getting with Resident Evil Village, which, like I said, I have not had in years with really any game. It's just something about it just screams replayability. But then on the flip side of that same argument, replayability can be kind of meh when you're doing the intro sequence for the umpteenth time. Because obviously, like, you're walking Rose to bed, you put her down, and then Chris kicks in the door and murders your wife. And then it's slow walking sequence through the woods, and then that's after, and then slow cutscene till you get your first gun, and then it's action. But even on my fastest completions, that's still 10 minutes a piece every time. With my playthroughs, I've already almost spent an hour and a half, not to mention my first times playing the game, so I've probably almost spent 2 hours just on that first segment up until the first survival, like, shootout. I've probably spent almost 2 hours on just that, and then the game grabs you by the hand. It's like, all right, let's fucking run with the wolves, boys. We're going wild. We're going to the deep end. Fucking shotgun, don't even reload that. We reloaded that for you. You can shoot him in the head. It doesn't do damage. Shoot him in the head. His fucking bow is on fire. Shoot him in the head. And it just keeps going until you're like, whoa, hold on. My daughter was kidnapped. I know that much. This fat dude selling me guns is fat. And that's his entire character. He's what's the word? Omniscient character that knows everything and is a gunsmith and connoisseur of fine cuts of meat and chefery. But, like, you never want to question it. It throws you in the deep end of giving you no answers. But they also make sure to tell you, look, you're not getting answers until you either beat the game or figure it out. But that's okay. Like, you look at other games and even TV shows where you just sit there and you're like, okay, but why? Okay, but what's happening? Why the hell did that happen? For some reason with Village, I didn't ask that once. Then again, with Resident Evil, I'm kind of conditioned to never ask those questions because probably not going to get an answer that you want to know or that you care to understand. It's Ouroboros, it's Las Plagas, it's both, it's all of them. The Spencer Mansion? Sure, that's the reason. Like, if you're a longtime fan of Resident Evil, you've probably just given up on knowing why things happen the way they do, but I don't know, it all works out. At least for this game. I don't know about all the other ones. That huge tangent aside, get back into the characters. So, there's 5 main bosses, but like 4 mini bosses to get to the one big boss. All of the promotional art, trailers, everything is Lady Dimitrescu, or Lady D as every YouTuber calls her, because I'm assuming they don't want to say her name 100 times or learn what her name is. Yes, Lady Dimitrescu is, she's like the poster child for the game. All of the concepts, trailers, like main threats, hunting down Ethan Winters, but she only plays a small segment in the game. Well, small being a fourth of the game, but it's just the first castle sequence with her and her daughters. Like, everyone that's going into it, they probably thought, hey, she'll come back, she'll take up a big chunk of the game. No, she's in for that first sequence, the first, like, mansion exploration, and then that's kind of the end of her character, despite references. And yes, like I said, spoilers. Crazy, am I right? I don't think it's misleading, but they definitely knew that their best character was going to be Lady Dimitrescu and then Heisenberg, the brother, leading up. There's 2 important characters, 2 non-important characters, and that's Lady D and Heisenberg. So the very beginning of the game and the very end of the game. The 2 characters in between, meh. One's even worse than the other, whereas one kind of served a better purpose, but I feel like the potential was a little bit burned. Let's just move into... I'm just going to dissect the game real quick. So the next area is where everyone will argue that this is, in fact, a horror game, and that is with the doll maker, the doll lady. I can't remember her name. See, like, that's the thing. Donna, that was it. Donna with the dolls. Like, you don't remember the names. Heisenberg, Lady Dimitrescu, you're going to remember those. But Donna and the other fish monsters, Moreau. Cool. Fun. They get the 4 things. Vampires, lichens, mermaids, dolls. But that's the layout. The doll maker area is where it takes away all your weapons. It turns into a puzzle, exploration, solve the riddle type of deal. And the first time, it was fun. I seem to remember jumping a little bit. Like, I was like, oh shit, it's dark. I have no weapons. It's more the fear of being unprotected than the fear of being in the dark alone. I streamed the whole thing start to finish. That's why there hasn't been a Let's Play of it. I'm going to try to edit it out, but that's for a different video. But, I mean, I was in a darkish room. I was suddenly unarmed, and I was afraid of death when I was trying to beat the game in one sitting. So I was like, oh, this is spooky all of a sudden. Like, solve the puzzles, listen to the radio, and listen to the lore that comes out talking about how special Ethan and Rosie are. You don't know why he's special till the end, and that part I won't spoil. But, yeah, like, you don't know what happens. Crazy, am I right? But the thing is that once you know the solutions, it's like a 10-minute sequence, and honestly, that's how I do my speedruns now. Like, I memorize the puzzles. I know how to get through it, you know, like any speedrunner. I'm not special. My times aren't great, are perfect by far. But that's the thing, is that the first time it's exploration and like, what the fuck? Did I mess something up? Like the classic, is the game glitched? Did I mess this up? What am I supposed to do? And then you finally do it after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you go, right, cool. But even looking back on it, like, the puzzle was fun because it came down to like the blind panic of, oh shit, corridor chase sequence between you and this big evil baby thing, which now on like 2nd and 3rd playthrough, or more like 3rd and 4th and 5th playthroughs are like, monster jumps out, now I have to backtrack and run back and then loop around and then backtrack and run back. But before, like, your first playthrough is like oh crap, I gotta turn, I gotta run, I gotta figure out which way to go, I gotta find a place to hide. And then later on it's just a waiting game, because even your second playthrough, for me, like, just as fun. All the foreshadowing they put in the game, like everything, every character interaction and comment they make about Ethan and Mia and Rose is all foreshadowing once you know how the game ends. Like, obviously I'm not going to spoil the big spoiler, but it all like culminates and you realize like every single sentence is blatant foreshadowing once you know what you're looking for and how you know how special everybody is and fits in this little puzzle. But then you move on to Moreau, and it's literally just Aqueduct, chase sequence, bland, one shot, one kill. Like, oh, he breached the sea, you're dead. But I know everybody from the trailer thought it was going to be like the Resident Evil 4, like harpoon hunting thing. No, it was just kind of a meh running sequence. There wasn't even enemies to fight, to mind. Yeah, there wasn't even any ads or anything to fight. It was just run from point A to point B. Like, that's where I make up a lot of time for the speed run, is you just go, weave through, perfect pathing, all that. I mean, just to circle back on the Dollmaker thing, just to extrapolate a little bit. The thing is about her puzzle, it's fun the first time, and all the puzzles of the game is like, solve the thing, do the thing. And then any time after that, they just become obstacles, which I'm sure isn't even like a real criticism. It's kind of on me because I played the game 1,000 times. But still, it doesn't like add freshness on different difficulties, whereas in like Resident Evil 1, if you want to go all the way back, like there was alternate mode, and then standard mode, like assisted mode, and there would be puzzles like have different elements, things change up a little bit. And I think especially for later playthroughs, that would be pretty cool. I haven't finished Village of Shadows, so which is the hardest difficulty you unlock after you beat the game, but I don't know if that's in there or not. And if it isn't, I feel like it's a wasted opportunity. Maybe it comes in DLC later, but who knows. But speaking of Village of Shadows, my biggest concern about that for like the speedrunning community, like fresh playthroughs, if you don't want to do like New Game Plus with unlimited ammo weapons, is it seems extremely unfair. Like, don't get me wrong, I have beaten some of the hardest games and the hardest difficulties. The Evil Within 1 on Akumu difficulty, one shot, one kill mode with limited resources, item management back then. Trust me, I get difficulty, but I played the first, what I'll say, act, the first chapter up until like the castle, and I died several times with an unlimited grenade launcher, shotgun, sniper rifle, like the unlockable AK-47 variant that you get for finishing the game. Like, I went in with unlimited ammo thinking I was going to breeze through, maybe get stuck on some bosses because of damage output. Like, every individual enemy can take a grenade launcher shot to the face. And every character is overly aggressive and will mantle you from, or grapple you from any distance away, which is concerning because in my fresh playthroughs on standard and casual, even casual, not so much casual, at least in standard and hardcore, the bullet management can be so precise that you'll go into every single boss fight, every single big encounter where it's like, hey, you got to survive. Like, you got to fight to the death. You might not have known you had to fight to the death because we didn't tell you whether you could run or not or survive, but congratulations, you're in the deep end. Figure it out. It's like, okay. So the bullet management can come down to like the last bullet, the last headshot, even on standard and hardcore difficulty. So in Village of Shadows, where I had unlimited assault rifle rounds, grenade launchers and all that, and I died to the first big Lycan encounter, I got a little nervous, and I've beat all the Resident Evils and all the difficulties, and I went, oh. So that's how this is going to be, huh? And once you beat it on all the difficulties and unlock everything, there's a little bit more fun variants and weapons, but there's no like crazy weapons like old Resident Evils are known for. Like, I know Resident Evil 7 isn't a great example, but at least it gave you the Albert 01, which was like a crazy anti-bio weapon to like one shot, two shot enemies any difficulty. But with this game, it's just standard pistol. Upgraded standard pistol, full auto standard pistol, shotgun, faster, more damage shotgun, hand cannon, strong. Like there's nothing like inspired about it. There's no minigun like in the old Resident Evils. There's no infinite rocket launcher that I have so far that you can just fire and fire and fire. Which obviously they probably don't want you just to blow through the game, just however which way you want, get the fastest time, just using ridiculous weapons, but it does take away some of like the charm that's in Resident Evil. Like, there's an unlockable lightsaber you can get, but even that isn't a one-shot. Like, it can still take multiple, which is kind of meh. Like, there's no crazy over-the-top things to unlock. It's just unlimited of the weapons you already used. which is fine. It just seems weird when Resident Evil's been known to like throw some like crazy left field stuff in there. But like look at the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake. The 2 had like an electroshock gun, had a grenade launcher, had the shit, I can't think of any of them. But at least the spark shot was neat. And I mean, obviously that sounded like a lot of negatives, but I feel like they kind of balance out. Like the crafting and gunplay is great, but then the item management can sometimes get a little too strict. Like every single thing seems to have a cause and effect to it. You have 2 great characters. You have 2 meh characters with one big bad that's kind of overwatching everything. The Lady Domitresque part is like the most fun. And then the final boss with Heisenberg is fucking crazy, where he throws in a little spoiler alert when he calls Chris a boulder-punching asshole. And that was the highlight of the entire game for me. And then Chris Redfield has a crazy-ass, like, just so calm first-person shooter, like, wild adventure calling in airstrikes and shit. That was neat. But, like, every single positive has, like, a weird thing to draw away from it to a negative. But I mean, realistically, like whenever I do these, I like to grade them based off of how much I enjoyed the game. I would say after 8 playthroughs, even after all the negatives, like the weird kind of character flaws, but then mixed with like the character moments that are fun, weapons versus management, all of that, I think Resident Evil Village should sit comfortably at an 80%. It was originally an 85, but then I really thought about it, was like, how much of this is blinded by my own personal opinion about the franchise and the characters and how much I like voice acting in characters, versus anybody just picking up Resident Evil and deciding this is where I'm going to start. But I think 80% is fair. I'd say it's like what, like a B range, like a B range, B minus maybe even. I think that should sit comfortably right around that range. It's a lot of fun. Honestly, you should pick it up. If you're not a huge fan of Resident Evil, I mean, you could probably wait until it comes down a little bit in price. But I mean, watching it go from me streaming it to the demos to the full playthrough in one stream, like it's been enjoyable. And then it's supposed to be a trilogy, so I guess we'll see what they do with Resident Evil 9. Maybe they'll call it Phoenix, which is everyone wants it to be called Phoenix, and they bring back Jill. But yeah, who knows? That's going to do it for me. So if you enjoyed another review like this, be sure to click that subscribe button, ring the bell button, and give me a thumbs up. It really lets me know whether you like it, and also fans my ego that video get metric equals good people have good fun, you know? If you guys want to see other live streams I do, you can find those links in the description at twitch.tv/LazyAfterDark. That's where I do live streams. I'll do like the events, like E3, all of that stuff. You know, I know I say this at the end of every video, but I feel like the reviews are a little bit different. Yeah, these are a lot of fun to do. I'm going to try to do a little bit more often just to kind of break up what kind of content I'm making. So if you guys like this, let me know. Comments, all of that. But until then, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you, Resident Evil. I waited years for a sequel, and I beat it in a day. 8 times. Now I patiently and impatiently wait for the sequel.